Do you know the exact activity you need to do in order to produce revenue? Like for most founders and entrepreneurs, there's seriously just one or two core activities that you do to produce revenue. If I quizzed you, would you be able to respond and tell me exactly what it is that produces revenue clearly and decisively? I call any activity that produces revenue a $10,000 or $100,000 task, and knowing what these one or two tasks are is critical, and we get into it on today's episode. So here's the question. In a world where the rules of business have been written by men, how do women entrepreneurs like us, women who want to make millions of dollars and impact millions of lives, how do we create enormous success on our terms? That's the question, and this show explores the answers. Welcome to Power Presence Position. I'm your host, Eleanor Beaton, and I'm on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who generate over $1 million per year in annual revenue. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, author, and leadership coach. I'm a wife, mom of 2 boys, and I'm the CEO of a 7-figure business. Stick around because on this show, you'll learn how to think, communicate, and get paid like a 7-figure CEO. Let's go. Hello, my fierce one. Welcome back to Power Presence Position. This is episode number 429. 15 minutes of grit. 15 minutes of grit. Queen-pires, because empires isn't such a in vogue word anymore. Queen-pires can be built and forged in 15 minutes of grit a day. And this is super important because of what we're all collectively going through. I've been talking about on the podcast. It's just tough. It is just tough to live through 2020 and this period of our lives. And I don't know about you, but I find that I just need to take extra amazing care of myself. I need to give myself a little extra time to do everything, or a lot extra time in some cases. I need more sleep. I need more quiet. I need more tea. I need more rest. So how do we continue to grow through this? And there's a number of different ways, but one way that you can really focus on growing revenue is to harness that 15 minutes of grit and to do those 1 or 2 tasks daily that are going to move the money. There's so much that goes on in business that's important, but doesn't move the money. But if you're not moving the money as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be happy. So before we get to that, I want to take a moment to give a shout out to one of our amazing listeners, Colleen herself, who's given us a 5-star review. And the title of this review is Unapologetic Ambition in Action. As a faithful follower of Power Presence Position, and also the predecessor show, which was Fierce Feminine Leadership since 2017, a longtime client and a mental health advocate, I am so proud to have sponsored episode 427, where you speak the truth about women leaders and entrepreneurs and the secondary pandemic, the mental health crisis. Platitudes are pathetic. True leadership is required. Keep telling it like it is. Unapologetic ambition in action. The power is in the message. Thank you so much, Colleen, and thank you for sponsoring the show. All right, so you know that sales is a massively important metric in business. You've got to be bringing in the bacon. You got to bring in the sales. And when it comes to building a business, it's not only about sales. That's a massively, massively important part. There's a lot of structures that you need to build. You need to hire the team. You need to create the processes. You need to create your plans. You got to have your value. You want to build your culture. You need to make sure you're, creating great offerings and deliverables and products and programs and all that good stuff. The problem that I see is that too many of you are not bringing it home. As a leader, you have to bring it home. And what does bring it home mean? It means getting that money, getting the cash, getting the money, and staying focused on that and giving yourself permission to stay focused on that. And as I said off the top, where I see people getting into trouble and then complaining that they're not making revenue, or complaining about how hard it is to be an entrepreneur is that, or how much time it takes, is that you're getting really busy building stuff, but you're not bringing it home. Because the activities typically where we're bringing it home, that's when you are having those difficult conversations. You're making the ask, you're putting yourself out there, and nobody likes doing that. Well, actually, that's not true. A few people love doing that. They live for that. But most of us don't love doing that. So we don't. So we busy ourselves doing other things. And that's fine if you're making money, right? But if you're currently not making the revenue that you want to be making, and you're not putting in 15 minutes of grit a day, and that's pretty much all it takes, 15 minutes of grit, then I'm going to challenge you that you're not doing everything you can to drive your business forward financially. Now, again, when I say, I am choosing my words carefully here, when I say doing everything you can, I don't mean working 10 hours a day or 15 hours a day or 20 hours a day. I'm talking about 15 minutes of grit. If you can do that day after day after day, if you can put yourself out there day after day after day doing the very specific thing I'm about to share with you, you're going to make a big leap in your business. But most people won't do this. 15 minutes of grit, most people won't do it. They'll make excuses. They'll do it for 5 days and say it didn't work. You know what happens. This is a bit of a rant, but come on, guys. There's a reason that so many entrepreneurs go out of business. There is. A lot of people flood into entrepreneurship because they see the benefits of it. It's like you get to be your own boss. You get to control your own time. Entrepreneurs, once you get things going, you can make a lot of money. You just have a ton of cash, influence, and autonomy. CIA, a lot of people get into entrepreneurship because they want that, but they are not willing to put in the work and put themselves out there and do the hard things. And then they get mad and they say, oh, it's not all about the hustle. I'm like, girl, it's about the hustle for 15 minutes a day. For sure it is. And if it weren't, everybody would have it, you know? So a little bit of a rant, but come on, guys, we're in a recession. We are living through some very difficult times. So we need to take care of ourselves. We need to enjoy our lives. And we need to put in 15 minutes of grit a day, okay? So what do I mean when I talk about bringing it home? I mean, you need 15 minutes a day, my love, and you've got to get really gritty. And you have to ask yourself, what do I do to actually produce money in my business? So not what do I do so that that thing can produce money. So as an example, I might say something like, well, when I write a blog post and then invite someone to a webinar, and then I host the webinar and I make an invitation, that makes money. So writing the blog post makes money. That's a money-making activity. Yes and no. Writing the blog post set in motion a chain of events that ultimately produce the money. But what I'm saying is, what was the actual thing that I did to generate the money? I got on a webinar and I invited hundreds of people to work with me at once. I invited somebody to buy from me. In other words, I had a conversation. And for the vast majority of entrepreneurs, conversations create cash, and people are frittering away a lot of time doing things that are not having those conversations. But Eleanor, I'm the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. I'm beyond that. Really? Maybe for you, your one conversation is having a conversation with your sales team and finding out and really holding them accountable and supporting them with their numbers. Maybe that for you is your income-producing conversation. For some of you, the income-producing conversation, if you're already the CEO of a multi-million-dollar business, could be booking a 20-minute call with a potential promotional partner, as an example. But conversations create cash. And if you can continuously line up cash-producing conversations and think broadly about what those conversations might look like, you will turn your business into a sales machine the gritty way, with 15 minutes of grit a day. Now, I want you to think about, what typically happens to produce cash. Like when I started my business, it was really about the thing that produced cash was me getting into a consult, a one-on-one consult, learning about the prospective client, and then making an offer that matched their needs. That was it, right? So maybe you're there. Maybe that's where your business is. And what I'm saying is get on the horn. Now, you might say, Eleanor, I don't have people to call. Well, this is where you need to start getting creative, start doing targeted outreach, figure out a way to get people on the phone. Is somebody engaging with you on social? Why don't you invite them to have a get to know you call? You do not have to sell to them on this call. This is about forging relationships, right? So not every single day you're going to have the ability to make an offer. You might have somebody who's just totally unqualified or whatever, but it is the habit of setting yourself up and hosting cash producing conversations every day. I was just talking about this. I was being interviewed on a podcast. And so at the end of the podcast, I loved the women. They were amazing. We'd be excellent partners for one another. And so we set up a conversation, and we're going to have a conversation about how we can work together in a strategic way to advance the growth of each other's businesses in a way that works for both of us. That's a cash producing conversation. Okay? So we do not have to complicate this, but also if you're like, I don't get it, I'm like, just kind of sit and ask yourself, leverage the power of your creativity and ask yourself, what's one conversation I could have that would advance my business today? So another thing you could do, have you hosted a webinar? Why don't you go and have a conversation with someone who's on the webinar? Are you looking to expand into a new country? Could you go and try to launch a conversation with an established partner in that country? Are you wanting to improve your platform and generate leads? Could you book a conversation to invite yourself to be a speaker on someone else's podcast or on someone else's platform? These are cash producing conversations. And when people aren't generating money, it's because they're distracting themselves doing all the other things, and they're not devoting 15 minutes a day to cash. I still do this. It's behind the scenes. I still do this, right? Even with a sales team, I still have cash producing conversations every day or set them up every day. Well, I say every day, but probably 75% of the time, right? But initially, every dang day. Okay. So again, typically, what is that cash producing conversation? It's some form of an invitation. Either you invite people to buy from you, or you invite yourself to some form of growth opportunity. Okay. So again, if I invited myself onto somebody's podcast, if I pitched myself as a guest, and asked my team to pitch myself as a guest, or I talked to a podcast host, and I'm like, do you know somebody else, who has a great podcast that I'd be a great guest for, et cetera, et cetera. These are cash producing conversations. And you know what? I have to put myself out there to make the ask. I have to get gritty, and grit, is so underrated. People want to, a lot of times I find people want to have this business where it's like a set of silk pajamas. There's no friction. It's light as air. Everything is in flow, but they don't understand actually what flow is. So it's like everything is like this breath of fresh air. I'm like, no, hell no. So often, results happen just from bursts where you just kind of take a big breath, you brace yourself, and you go and do something that scares you. Pitch yourself, make the ask, make the offer, pick up the phone, call somebody, arrange the conversation. If you have a cash producing conversation every single day for the next 30 days straight, watch what happens. Watch what happens to your business. This is called bringing it home. Now, all of the other stuff around building your ecosystem exists to support you bringing it home. So you've got to bring it home. You have to have those conversations. People forget this all the time. But as an entrepreneur, you eat what you kill. You have to bring it home. It is on you, woman. It's on you. You got to do this. It is different from being an employee. And employees are amazing. But the role, what it looks like for an employee to bring it home, looks a little different than what it looks like for a business owner to bring it home. Everybody needs their metrics, et cetera, but you better have your metrics. And so this is a little bit of a tough love conversation for entrepreneurs out there who are saying the economy is so bad, things are so tough, nobody's buying, da-da-da-da-da. Sure, it's tough, yes. But guess what? You're in business. You made this decision. You got to get gritty. You got to get paid. And in order to get paid, you need to take a little bit of time and do that one task that brings home the bacon. No excuses, no BS, no, I don't feel like it. Because if you don't do it today, you're going to feel it next month or the month after. All right? So there you go. That's what I've got for you today. 15 minutes of grit can change your life. Figure out what is the exact thing you do to make money directly. And for almost everybody, it's that you made an offer, you made an invitation. And how can you make a direct invitation every single day? Solving that problem is probably one of the most valuable uses of your time today. But don't get distracted solving the problem. Pick up the dang phone. All right, guys, have an awesome day. We'll see you same bat time, same bat place in our next episode of Power Presence Position. If you love this show, then you will love even more my missives, i.e. my emails. If you're not on my email list yet, I strongly encourage you to sign up at eleanorbeaton.com/join. Now, when you go and sign up for my email list, you will quickly discover why some of the most popular, well-known, and influential voices in the world of women's entrepreneurship quietly, studiously, consistently open every single email I send out because they want to be inspired, they want to be entertained, and also I think they really want to connect with a woman like myself who's in full command of her voice and is willing to open up and share her thinking, her ideas, and her story. I promise you that on this email list, you are going to be entertained. You are going to hear really valuable tips about stepping into your power as a leader. And you're also going to get fun insight that I do not share anywhere else. Go to eleanorbeaton.com/join. And I promise you it will be the highlight of your inbox.